Impact games. We need some impact games this week. And I think that's what we're going to get with the NAIA schedule here in week 8. I don't think we're going to see as many blowouts as we saw last week as well. There were 7 shutouts last weekend. So I don't think we're going to see that this week. I think we have a lot more on the way. And so we have some good games coming up. Jake, hey, listen, going to be a little bit late. Got to finish up some stuff at football practice. That's all right. Jake with us tonight, watching us from East Wichita and from wherever you happen to be watching us tonight. I sure am thankful for that. We have the crawl going right now, which is the NAIA F-Ball media poll. And so this is what the media poll looks like following week 7. And yeah, I think we have a few things right on there. NAIA F-Ball putting out this poll. So a shout out to Corey and all that they do over there with NAIA F-Ball. We're going to get the games up and going here, so let's go ahead and get started. By the way, thanks for watching. I'm Joey McWilliams here with Midwest Sports Net. All right, games on the schedule for Week 8. And we start with Georgetown and Faulkner. Big matchup there. Big Mid-South matchup. Georgetown has continued to play well this season, and it is year 2 of the Chris Oliver era. Georgetown 5-2 in this series all-time, won last year 23-13. Georgetown beat Cumberland last week 42-14. Faulkner lost to Cumberland's last week 37-7. And you look at this, Georgetown, they've been doing things right this year. 48.8 points per game. That's 4th in the NAIA. Faulkner not putting as many points on the board. 12.0 points per game, 86th in the NAIA. We're taking Georgetown this week. Next game on the docket, well, this is a first meeting, but then again, that's the way it's been pretty much all year long with Thomas, as Warner is traveling to Thomas to take on the Nighthawks. Warner lost to Kaiser last week, and it was a big loss, 69-6. Warner started off well, won the first 3 games, and then lost the last 3. Thomas still has not gotten that first elusive win. Thomas lost to Southeastern in his last outing, 34-20. Did put 20 points on the board, so a shout out right there. Siena Heights 3-3. Concordia 5-1. Siena Heights, a good season. Concordia, a better season, and Siena Heights, it struggled just a little bit this year. Defeated Taylor 24-21 last week. Concordia lost its first game of the season, and that was to a very, very tough Marion team. Both undefeated coming in. The Knights are still undefeated. And with all this being said, let me remind you, Indiana Wesleyan's in the mix here in the Mid-States Football Association, the Mid-East Division. Indiana Wesleyan has a bye this week and has to take on all 3 of those opponents in its next 3 games: Siena Heights, Concordia, and Marion. We'll get to Marion again here in just a moment. Concordia lost that 7-point matchup. Concordia has won the last 8 in this series. These 2 teams have played 11 times, 8-3. Siena Heights won the first 3. Concordia has won 8 since then. Concordia led by Gavin Brooks, whose numbers have gone down just a little bit in the last couple of weeks. 245.5 passing yards per game. That's 15th in the NAIA. He was hovering in the top 4, top 5 for quite a while. Had just 147 yards passing last week, and that was against that tough Marion defense. That was a season low as well. We're still taking Concordia in this one at home over Siena Heights. Reinhardt, 4-2, taking on Point, and Point is 3-4 on the season. We picked against Reinhardt early on, and I'm not positive. I need to go back and look. I think we may have picked against Reinhardt a second time. Both times we were wrong. We will not pick against Reinhardt again. We picked for Reinhardt in Reinhardt's favor previously, and Reinhardt defeated St. Andrews then the week after that, 56-0. I can just tell you right now, we're not picking against Reinhardt for the remainder of this season. It's not going to happen now. If Reinhardt goes undefeated, I think they pretty much have a playoff spot locked up at that point in time. We're not picking against the Eagles the rest of this year. Point lost to Union, defensive touchdown last week, Point 3-4. Reinhardt in this series is 10-0 all time. Won 48-21 in 22. Yes, you're going, well, Joey, of course you're going to pick them. They've never lost in this series. Well, yes, of course we're going to pick them, and they're not going to lose again. Reinhardt led by Jadavian Colbert, 107.3 rushing yards per game. That's 13th in the NAIA. However, even getting the century mark at least every single week. Colbert has only 3 rushing touchdowns, so maybe he'll put some points on the board this coming week. Kentucky Christian, St. Andrews. Now, the rules say that someone has to win this game. Okay, that's just the way it is. Someone will win this game. Kentucky Christian 0-7, St. Andrews 0-7. Kentucky Christian lost to Pikeville 49-0. St. Andrews lost to Reinhardt last week 56-0. Combined, they were outscored 105-0. Rules say somebody has to win it. And you have to give some credit then to St. Andrews because at least they've scored this year. For Kentucky Christian, the point totals in 7 games have been like this: 0, 0, 0, 6, 6, 0, 0. The Knights in 2023 have scored less points than Rachel Zegler with Snow White fans this year. We're going to go with St. Andrews in this one just because the Knights, the St. Andrews Knights, can score. So we'll go with St. Andrews on that one. All right, Weber International. We just had to have a little fun there. Weber International 1-5. Florida Memorial 3-3, and the Lions are picking up the pace just a little bit. Weber International 2-1 all time in this series, hasn't been around for very long. 31-14 as the Warriors got the victory in 2022. Weber International lost Ave Maria last week 30-7, and they've lost 5 straight. Started with the season opening win. Haven't been able to put one on the board since then. Florida Memorial lost to St. Thomas. Not a bad loss, but I believe they could pick it up from then. And Walter Wilbon has been doing well this year. 109.5 rushing yards per game. That's 9th in the NAIA. Thanks, Jake. I appreciate your support, by the way. Montana Tech. By the way, we're going with Florida Memorial on that one. Montana Tech taking on Rocky Mountain. This one should be a good Frontier Conference matchup. Montana Tech 4-2, Rocky Mountain 3-4. 115th meeting between these two programs in football. Montana Tech has won 70 of them, and Rocky Mountain 44. They tied one time. Rocky Mountain won 28-20 last year. Rocky Mountain has lost 3 straight. Lost to Montana Western last week, tried to come back, not enough to rally in the fourth quarter. It's a 27-20 loss to Montana Western. Montana Tech also lost to Montana Western. That was 2 weeks ago in its most recent game. 38-28 was the score right there. We're going to go with Montana Tech on the road. Rocky Mountain's defense still pretty strong, but it's been giving up more and more yards and more points of late. And so we're going to go with the Ore Diggers taking this one on the road. All right, we were talking about impact games. Let's get into some of these impact games. And here's one that is a big one, the Franciscan Bowl. Now we're going to talk about that right here on Midwest Sportsnet. St. Francis of Indiana, 4-2 on the year. Marion, we've already mentioned earlier, the Knights are undefeated at 6-0. Marion is 11-7 all-time in this series and has won 5 straight, winning 37-10 in 2022. The first game went to St. Francis. That was back in 2007. It was a 57-7 victory there. It's a big rivalry honoring St. Francis of Assisi, as you might imagine. And you look at these two programs, too. And one of the big things here is that you have to acknowledge, even if it's not a strong year, which for Marion it is, you have to say for St. Francis, tripped up a couple times. Still, these two programs have won 4 of the last 11 national championships in the NAIA. St. Francis defeated Lawrence Tech last week 56-7, and they won 4 straight after opening with 2 losses. Marion, has won 6 straight and defeated Concordia in a tough defensive battle last week, 14-7. Marion's at home. We're going to take Marion at home in this one to stay undefeated. Top 5 program right now in the NAIA FBall rankings, and by the way, also in the NAIA rankings, not ratings. We move on, and let's go to the KCAC. I don't think we've talked about KCAC yet in our program tonight. Avila, the Eagles are 1-6, and this comes after winning the first game. Coach Derek Alexander in his first contest wins then. They've lost 6 straight since then. Tabor is 2-5 on the year. Avila 4-1 all-time in the series, won last year 41-7. We mentioned Avila's loss last week to Kansas Wesleyan. That was lost the Coyotes 34-16, 6 straight. Tabor, by the way, has won 2 straight after starting off with 5 consecutive losses there. Tabor defeated Sterling 24-10. We're going to go with the trend right now, and the trend says Tabor's winning games. So we're going to go with Tabor winning games in this one. All right. How about somebody who is not only winning games, but just continuing to win games and win games and win games and win games? 74 consecutive regular season wins for Morningside. They're 7-0. Jamestown, not so much, 2-5. Morningside is 6-0 all-time in this series, won 59-7 in 2022 last year. Jamestown lost to Dort last week, and you have to give Jamestown some credit. Put some points on the board. Dort's tried to keep people off the board, done a fairly good job of that. Lost just 23-13. And speaking of credit, how about Dakota Wesleyan holding Morningside to less than 30 points in a 27-3 loss to the Mustangs last week? Morningside, 74 consecutive regular season wins. We've talked about that. 42.4 points per game. Now, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. And shout out, by the way, to someone I know who's watching us from Morningside territory. Yeah, Dale, it's really not bad at all. However, if you look at it, that's 11th in the NAIA. Now, in the recent memory, I want to go with let's go with the last 5 years, but maybe a little bit even before the last 5 years. Morningside is generally holding space and claiming real estate in the top 5 scoring offenses in the country. So to put them at 11 seems a little bit off. I think it's just a change in the game and maybe just a change in the way that Coach Ryan is doing things this year. We've seen 2 different quarterbacks at the helm, and Cash Parker, he takes the helm when it's passing is needed, I think, because he seems to come across as more of a passing quarterback. Then you have Lennox Brown. Lennox Brown saw some time near the end of the season last year when Joe Dolanchek had suffered that injury. Brown comes across as more of a running quarterback. At least that's what the stats say. Now, both can do both, but one favors the pass a little more. One favors the run a little bit more. Now, the catch on this one is, what are we going to see in Saturday's game against Jamestown? Now, Jamestown 2-5. Morningside, may not pose as big a threat, at least on paper, but I know that Morningside's definitely not going to take anyone for granted. That's why they've won 74 consecutive regular season games, 3 national championships along the way in there. Jamestown is 20th in the country against the pass. Now, 20th out of 94 NAIA programs, the Jamestown defense ranks in the upper 20%. We'll say upper 25% there. So they're 20th in the country against the pass. They're 45th in the country against the run. That's right about midway through the NAIA football programs. So you might think in this case then, get the quarterback out there that runs the ball a little bit better, may have a little bit more success. That would be Lennox Brown. And, of course, you might see Ryan Cole. We had a healthy dose of Ryan Cole for Morningside last week. That doesn't take away from what Cash Parker does. And I know if Dale's looking at this, you may want to see Cash Parker out there a little bit more, because Zach Norton may catch a few more passes if you've got the passing quarterback out there. We'll see. We're going to pick Morningside in this one. That would seem to be a given. With a win, it would be number 75 in a row for consecutive regular season wins. And again, Coach Ryan's going to do what he wants to do. That's great. And I think a big part of this, too, is having 2 quarterbacks at any point in time with as much experience as he's been able to give both of them. It helps Morningside into the postseason. We've had quarterbacks for Morningside that have put up just unbelievable numbers. Dolanchek was one of those last year. When he got hurt near the end of the season, Brown didn't have the experience coming in, and I think it hurt them somewhat. Dolanchek came back in that last contest against Kaiser, but it just wasn't quite enough, and he wasn't at full strength anyway. So Coach Ryan is hedging his bet. It looks like, this is from an outsider's perspective, but it looks like he's hedging his bet and having 2 quarterbacks in there for, no matter what happens, you'll have somebody with experience this year. We're taking Morningside in this one, and we will move on. Yeah, it's been a different offense, Dale, from week to week, definitely. So we'll see what it turns out as this time. St. Francis of Illinois. I know better than that. Sorry. I was already about to say Fighting Saints in there. The Fighting Saints 5-2. The Fighting Bees 0-6. St. Francis in this one. A narrow edge all time. Actually, that's a narrow deficit. St. Ambrose has won 17 of 29 in this series. St. Francis won last year 34-10. And by the way, this also brings up another quarterback question. Who's going to play in this one? Sam Tumulty? Is Carl Bew going to play? And Bew, a freshman, has come in and made some noise right off the bat. Tumulty, the two-sport star, the dual-threat quarterback that he is, not sure if he's injured again. Did have an injury earlier on, but we'll see who's going to play their quarterback. I think no matter what, St. Francis has the edge. Defeated Judson last week 56-26, and St. Ambrose lost to Roosevelt in the Lakers NAIA farewell tour 30-17. We're going with the Fighting Saints in this one. Missouri Valley 4-2. Benedictine 5-2 on the year. 43rd meeting between these two programs. Benedictine holds a narrow advantage, 22-20 all time. But the Ravens have won 6 straight, and that includes a 45-24 victory last season. Missouri Valley defeated Missouri Baptist 35-20. That's about par for the course. Missouri Baptist still trying to find its way in the Hart Conference. Benedictine with a big victory over Central Methodist, 59-21. Benedictine's had a couple of tough losses this year. Since that time, the Ravens seem to have found what it takes to just put this together. We're taking Benedictine at home in this one until otherwise noted or until someone else says, hey, we've got this. Benedictine is in control in the South. Both of these teams undefeated in South play. The winner comes out of this one in very good shape to try to take that Hart South playoff spot, which, by the way, we'll have a couple of shows midweek as well talking about playoff spots and the 20 of those NAIA playoff spots that are coming up as the season winds down and gets a little bit closer to the end of the regular season. Culver Stockton 1-6. Clark matches that record. The Culver Stockton Wildcats 3-0 all-time in this series, won 41-21 back in 2022. And you look at the schedules for both of these programs, it actually does look pretty interesting. Both teams lost their first 3 games, won the 4th game of the season, and have lost 3 games since then. Culver Stockton lost to Grandview, but then again, who hasn't? 44-7. Clark lost to William Penn, 41-20. Moving on along. By the way, thanks for watching tonight. I know a few of you all have told us from where you're watching. Jake, as always, from East Wichita, and Dale up there in the Sioux City area as well. Dave, shout out, by the way, to Dave, is also a Morningside fan. Stangs have to take care of business, then things get real. You know what? And when I read that just a moment ago, I had thought that it read have taken care of business, which, by the way, they have taken care of business. I know things get real here in about 4 weeks, but as long as this winning streak in the regular season just continues, you just want it to keep on going, I would imagine, and keep on going. Jake, watching us from East Wichita, please let us know from where you are watching tonight. Sterling in the KCAC 1-6, the Warriors, the Braves 3-4, and just interesting matchup between the two. 53rd meeting all time. Ottawa has a 29-23 advantage. Sterling did win last year 28-13, and Sterling lost to Tabor 24-10. Ottawa defeated St. Mary 28-17, and this is a Bissell division matchup. Still lots at play in that division. Move back up to the North Star, a conference that may or may not be in its last legs. I think it may have a little bit more time than the Pac-12. We'll see. Mayville State, the Comets, just have not had the strong season that they expected this year. 1-6 on the year. Waldorf in its farewell tour to the North Star, 4-3 on the year. The Warriors are led by Jatovier Hill. He has 125.4 rushing yards per game. Hadn't crossed that 1,000-yard mark just yet this season. He's 4th in the NAIA, has 12 rushing touchdowns. Tim Salmon on the other side of the ball has 12 passing touchdowns, throwing for 215.6 yards per game. And that's not a bad number. Down for Salmon from last year, though. 26th in the NAIA. So Mayville State trying to pick up the win on the road at Waldorf. We're going to go ahead and go with Waldorf in this one. Back to the GPAC. Dakota Wesleyan off a very tough loss, a very, very tough loss at the hands of Morningside last week. Well, they're on the road at Briarcliff. 5-2, taking on 2-5. Dakota Wesleyan 13-7 all time in this series, and have won 34-24 last year against Briarcliff. These two teams took on the two most recent national champions. Dakota Wesleyan, we said, lost to Morningside. Briarcliff lost to Northwestern last week. We head down to the Mid-South now. Cumberland, 3-3. Bethel, 6-1. Bethel's lone loss of the season, just one that's there, and that was to St. Thomas. It's not a bad loss. I think if you're the committee and you look at the NAIA rankings, not ratings, you may see Bethel down just a little bit, but this is still a very, very strong team. And I mentioned when the loss happened, maybe you just get that one out of the way. I mean, this was a team that won all of its regular season games last year and lost in the first round of the playoffs. Get one out of the way. Know that you're human, and then go on from there. Cumberland lost to Georgetown 42-14 last week. Bethel defeated Roosevelt 44-7. By the way, that was win number 200 in program history for the Wildcats. So congratulations on that one. Bethel won last year 27-17, led by Joaquin Collazo III. 282.3 passing yards per game. That's seventh in the NAIA. 16 passing touchdowns for the season. And how about, by the way, Demetrius Gilbert? Gilbert has 2 interceptions returned for touchdowns. He had a punt return for a touchdown a couple of weeks ago. And last week, he blocked a field goal, which was returned by Cortez Eatman, 98 yards for a touchdown. This Bethel defense has 4 touchdowns it's produced this year, and it's giving up only 14.9 points per game. We are absolutely taking Bethel 6-1, the win here. Jake, we may get some conversation between Isaac and Jake as friends of both Friends and Evangel in the chat session. By the way, the Valor, a great addition to the KCAC. We will talk about Friends and Evangel. That one's coming up a little bit later on. And wow, you want to talk about an impact game? That definitely is the case. Doane at Midland. Tigers yet to get the victory yet this year. 0-7 on the road at Midland. And the Warriors are 4-4. This is meeting number 70 between these two programs. Doane 39-30 all time, won 20-6 last year. Doane lost to Briarcliff last week, and it was really close. You thought the Tigers might have a chance against the Chargers and lost 18-16. Midland lost to Mount Marty 28-21. Midland looked like they were in control up until the very end of the first half, up 21-0. Mount Marty got a score, and then 21 points unanswered in the second half. So Midland trying to right the ship against Doane. 70th meeting. How about a matchup between two teams now? That's the 80th meeting. Bethany and McPherson. 80th time these two teams will meet on the football field. Bethany's won 52, McPherson 27. The Bulldogs won last year 53-6. Bethany 1-6, McPherson 4-3. You have to like what Tristan Zabo's done this year. 284.3 passing yards per game, 6th in the NAIA. He also has 21 passing touchdowns. That is tied for 2nd in the NAIA. I'm taking Zabo and McPherson in this one. We move from the KCAC over to the Heart, where we see Baker, a team that's really found its footing again. Last season, for Wildcats fans, you have to think that's just a blip on the radar. Baker 5-1 in the South, taking on Missouri Baptist. First ever meeting between these two programs. That's been the case pretty much throughout the season for the Spartans this year. And Baker defeated Mid-American Nazarene last week 40-7. Pioneers got on the board first, and Baker just shut things down from there. Missouri Baptist lost to Missouri Valley. Baker led by Truman Julesgard. We mentioned his name a few times. 202.7 passing yards per game. He also has 62 rushing yards per game. It's pretty good on the total offense side. By the way, those two categories, I've seen them mixed up a lot this year, people giving stats. Total offense, you're going to see your quarterbacks with this category more than anyone else because it's passing yards and rushing yards. The all-purpose yards are rushing yards. receiving yards, punt return yards, kick return yards. We're going to talk about those actually coming up here in just a little bit with someone who's just been lighting it up. We're taking Baker on the road at South St. Louis for this one, and Baker to pick up the victory in that one. Hastings 3-5, Mount Marty 3-5. Hastings 2-0 all time in this series, won 45-20 last year. Hastings last week lost to Concordia, and Mount Marty got the win over Midland, stopped a 5-game losing streak. We're going with Mount Marty at home to continue that trend. You stop the losing slide. You've scored 28 straight points. We'll see how many points you can continue to score in this one. We're taking Mount Marty. Want an impact game? Here is another impact game. This one is big for all you GPAC fans. It's defending national champions, Northwestern, the Red Raiders, 24-15-2 all time in this series against Dordt. And Northwestern's won every single matchup in the 21st century. 15 consecutive wins for Northwestern, including a 23-0 win last year. Now, Dort's had a solid season, and you have to wonder where they fit in the GPAC this year. I think I would have them in that number 3 spot. And until otherwise proven different, you have to have Northwestern and Morningside. Northwestern occupies the top spot, even though both are 7-0. Northwestern defending national champions. So taking that top spot, 1B or a very, very close to Morningside right now. We're going to find out who's going to come out on top a little bit later on. Don't worry, Morningside fans. I know the regular season matchup hasn't happened yet this year like it did in the season opener last year. Goodness. But since that season opener, Northwestern has not lost. Lost by 1 point to Morningside and has not lost since then. So this is how Dale feels about that. Ready to see Northwestern get a loss. Put one in the loss column right there. Let's talk about Northwestern and Dordt. The defenders defensively have given up just 265.3 yards per game. That's 11th in the NAIA. Just 58.5 yards per game on the ground. That is 6th in the NAIA, and just 13 points per game. Also 6th in the NAIA. Northwestern, however, not to be deterred. Their offense is pretty strong. Defense is good, well. Let's talk about Jalen Gramstad. 287.1 passing yards per game, 5th in the NAIA, 16 passing touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns. I've said it in weeks past. I'm going to say it again. We have not seen Gramstad's full potential yet this year, and we may not see it until the playoffs or the Morningside contest. Maybe all of that comes out against Dordt at home against Dordt. Connor McQuillan, by the way, has been picking up the slack on the ground for the Red Raiders. 101 rushing yards per game, 12 rushing touchdowns on the year. That's tied with Jatovier Hill for second in that position. Northwestern's at home. Northwestern has won 20 consecutive games. Northwestern's a defending national champion, too. We're going to go ahead and pick Northwestern at home in this one. Sorry, Dale, but we're going to go with that one. All right. Roosevelt continues its farewell to the NAIA tour, and Roosevelt goes on the road to take on Olivet Nazarene. These two are 5-5 all time in the series history. Someone's going to get the tiebreaker when this series comes to a close, or, it doesn't have to close. They could play each other when Roosevelt's in D2, but it seems unlikely at that point. Olivet Nazarene has won 5 straight over the last 5 years. Roosevelt won the first 5. Olivet won the second 5. 38-31 last year. Olivet Nazarene coming off a win over Central Methodist. Roosevelt coming off a tough loss against Bethel. The Wildcats, put it to them. So there we go. This one should be an impact game. Let me just leave that out there. This one should be an impact game. And I don't think we're going to call it one right now because of the records, but each one still with an opportunity to make something happen in the Heart South. Graceland's been playing without all of its complete roster. And if you've been following this, you know what all's going on there. We haven't seen Gerald Monroe since week 4, and just things have not gone right. Kate Ross had to sit out for a game as well. Graceland 3-4. Grandview 6-0. Grandview's 10-0 all time in the series. Won last year 48-7. Defeated Culver Stockton last week 44-7. Let's just continue on that 40. Grandview's won 46 consecutive regular season games. Did you realize that? And by the way, I've been talking about what Morningside's done, and Morningside has done all kinds of things, 74 consecutive during the regular season. But I neglected to talk about, and here we are, week 8. It's my fault. I'll take the blame for this one. I neglected to talk about what Grandview's done, and in the regular season has won 46 consecutive games. They're holding opponents this year to 5.7 points per game. That's first in the NAIA. Just 196.2 yards of total offense per game. Also first in the NAIA. Graceland, now by the way, Trey Blake, we talked about all-purpose yards. Trey Blake's been putting some all-purpose yards out there, 162.4 per game. Fourth in the NAIA. And he's done it in just 6 games worth of work. He didn't play in week 1 for Graceland. If the Yellow Jackets are at full strength, this is a contest. And it's going to be a very tough contest for Grandview. Don't know that they're going to be at full strength this week. And also Grandview, because Grandview. We're taking Grandview on the road in this one. All right. Impact games. Last week, that last one should have been. This one will. The next 3 we have is impact games. College of Idaho taking on Carroll. A couple of different shades of purple up there right now. One of them, you can barely see that's purple, but yes. The Coyotes are 6-1. The Saints are 6-0. Carroll has a 6-5 advantage in this series all time, and the two teams split last year, and Carroll won the regular season finale, so you have to think that's what really put the Saints in the position to take the Frontier Conference playoff spot, the lone Frontier Conference playoff spot last year. Now, 20 playoff spots this year, 13 automatic bids, 7 that go to at-large teams. The Frontier Conference is one of those teams that you would think is looking to get 2 bids. Not guaranteeing that, and we'll talk about it more as the season winds down. But these are programs, and those 2 right there, either one of those, and possibly both, could be seeing time in mid to late November. But they have to play each other during the regular season first. College of Idaho defeated Montana State Northern last week, 59-0. Carroll defeated Eastern Oregon in a surprising score of 14-6. Kind of shocked by that one. College of Idaho, 44.4 points per game, 7th in the NAIA. 43 touchdowns over the course of the season, tied for 2nd in the NAIA. Carroll on defense, they've been shutting people down. Just 240.3 yards of total offense per game, 7th in the NAIA. Giving up only 51.7 yards on the ground, 3rd in the NAIA. You have 2 strong quarterbacks, Andy Peters for College of Idaho, Jack Perka. The numbers for Peters are going to be bigger. Perka has done a fantastic job. Obviously, he's led his team to an undefeated season so far. The numbers not really as high. Andy Peters, 249.3 passing yards per game, 13th in the NAIA, 17 passing touchdowns, tied for 8th in the NAIA, giving up only 4 interceptions. So if we're talking about the 2 and the pick that we have to make, because of the way that Peters has taken care of the ball, defense is going to be strong. Would be shocked if in this contest there were too many points scored. We got a couple of these games that are going to be like that. I think if NAI excuse me, if Las Vegas had odds and lines on some of these NAI games, I would go as far down as if the over-under were 44.5. I'd still take the under in this game. And even with that, we're going to go with College of Idaho. So we're picking College of Idaho. Andy Peters leads the way in a very tight contest, a very big win. Jack Perka can keep his team in it, but College of Idaho to try to give the Saints their first loss of the season. Another impact game. Cumberland's 5-2. Lindsey Wilson 5-1. Top of the Mid-South Conference, and a lot on the line in this one. Lindsey Wilson has won 7 of 9 all-time in the series, and 36-10 last year. Cumberland's defeated Faulkner last week, 37-7. Lindsey Wilson defeated Campbellsville, 34-14, and has won 4 straight games since the Kaiser loss, the only loss on the record this year for the Blue Rangers. We're taking Lindsey Wilson at home in this one to stay at the top of the Mid-South. Want some more impact games? Got one more for you here. Bethel. Threshers are just 4-3 on the year. Southwestern picked up his first loss of the season last week against Friends and the Fighting Jake Redcorns, right? This one's a tough one. Bethel has won 3 straight. So you look at Bethel's record and you go, man, it was a tough opening to the season for the Threshers. 3 straight in this series, by the way. 31-23 was the victory last year over Southwestern. Southwestern owns the all-time advantage, 47-19-1. Bethel defeated McPherson last week, 33-24. Excuse me. Southwestern lost to Friends, 35-20. Let's talk about these 2 quarterbacks because they're going to headline this one, and they're going to get the ball down the field in 2 totally different ways. DJ Sears, 126 rushing yards per game, 3rd in the NAIA. That's from the quarterback position. He has 11 rushing touchdowns on the year, tied for 4th in the NAIA. Southwestern is led by Braden Howell, 254 yards passing per game, 11th in the NAIA. He has 18 passing touchdowns also. This one's a tough one. Bethel won this one last year. Southwestern's at home this week, and you have to think that the Mound Builders do a pretty good job at home. Good home field advantage there in Winfield. We're going to say Southwestern rights the ship over the Threshers in this one and stays around for that Kessinger Division playoff spot, still with an opportunity there. Very, very tight game in this one. Southwestern comes out on top. That's our pick. Mound Builders in this one. All right. North American, an independent, the lone independent in the NAIA this year, 1-6. Sagu, just torched last week against Texas Wesleyan. Well, they're at home for a second consecutive week, and I don't see the results of this one being the same. By the way, these are 2 teams also that combined to put no points on the board. There's another matchup like that last week, that was or earlier in the show, and that was the Kentucky Christian St. Andrews matchup. North American gave up 40 to Langston, didn't score last week. Sagu gave up 51 to Texas Wesleyan, didn't score last week. Someone's going to score in this one. First ever meeting between these 2 programs from the state of Texas, from Houston and Waxahachie. We're going to pick the team that's playing home in Waxahachie. Sagu picks up win number 3, and North American struggles on the road. Back to the heart now. Central Methodist 1-6. Lost to Benedictine last week, 59-21. Mid-American Nazarene 5-2, but the Pioneers lost to Baker last week as South Division play started. And so the Pioneers have looked good over the course of this season. Not out of it for a playoff spot, realistically, not out of it for an at-large spot if they weren't able to overtake Benedictine and find a way to pick up the playoff spot from the South. Adrian Parsons, 289.1 passing yards per game, 4th in the NAIA, has 15 passing touchdowns. The Pioneers are playing in Olathe, and we are going to say that the Pioneers are going to win this one at home. Back to the Sooner. Wayland Baptist, 1-5. Texas Wesleyan, 6-1. Rams 4-1 all-time in the series, won 59-16 last year. 2 programs, at least for this season, that are going 2 different directions. But they both played Sagu in their last contest. 2 weeks ago, Wayland Baptist lost to Sagu 37-16 at home and have lost 5 straight, by the way, since winning the opener. Texas Wesleyan defeated Sagu 51-0. Rams win this one on Saturday. Texas College, as we stay in the Sooner Athletic Conference, and pull that graphic up right there. Texas College, the Steers on the road at Oklahoma Panhandle. Steers, I guess the opposite of undefeated would be defeated. Well, they're defeated this year. 0-7 at the Aggies, 2-4. Panhandle State, 13-1 all-time in this series, won 53-6 back in 2022. Both teams coming off a loss. Texas College lost to Louisiana Christian last week, 52-7, and the Steers have lost 11 consecutive games trying to right the ship in Goodwill. I don't think it's going to happen. Panhandle State lost to Langston last week. They right the ship at home. Speaking of Langston, as we stay in the Sooner Athletic Conference for one more game here, Arkansas Baptist 1-6, Langston 4-2. The Lions 2-0 all-time against the Buffaloes, won 55-8 last year. Langston won 85-6 in 2021. So Langston, in 2 contests, has outscored Arkansas Baptist 130-14 Don't know that that trend's going to change any because both teams were on opposite ends of shutouts last week. Langston again defeated North American 40-0. Arkansas Baptist, in a record-setting performance for Ottawa at home in Arizona, defeated the Buffaloes 83-0. The Buffaloes seriously just need to put some points on the board, and it's going to be a tough place to do it at Langston. It's where we open the season this year with our Midwest Sports Saturday Tour for 2023. We have been, as a family, and by the way, I hope you all are family people. I see a lot of folks that have family that play for your respective teams. We're a family here. Mrs. Midwest Sportsnet and I have been to a couple of Saturdays where we've watched our teenagers who play in the band, and we're going to do that again this Saturday. So I thought I was going to be able to mix in sports and band this Saturday. I've done it before on this particular weekend, but we're watching our juniors. We have twins that are in the band competing, so we'll be on the road doing that. But we'll be following. This is going with me, okay? So we're following all the way through. We're watching games on the road. Hey, I like that one, Jake. That's a nice one. There we go. It's been a long time since we've talked about Jimmy the Greek being on the air. Wow, that was does that mean that you're old like I am? I don't know. Anyway, Langston wins this one in Langston, and the band was not there, by the way. When we were in Langston this year, Dr. Gordon didn't have the band there. They were competing somewhere else too, so we need to go back and be able to see the band play. We'll see what happens. Let's go out to the frontier now. Southern Oregon has come alive this year, 3-3. The Raiders winning some games now. Well, they've done pretty well against Northern in this series. They've won 15 out of 15 contests all time. Won last year 56-6. Northern lost to College of Idaho 49-0. Southern Oregon defeated Arizona Christian, and a very rude welcome to the Frontier Conference there, 49-7. Southern Oregon on the road. We're going to say that the misery continues for Northern, and the Raiders come away with a victory. Peru State 3-4. The Bobcats have started to come alive a little bit since opening the season, having lost their first 4 games. Peru State 6-3 all-time against William Penn, as the Statesmen are 3-3 on the year. Peru State's won 5 straight in this game, including a 27-25 victory last year. And Jake, you have made my day, and I'm about to tell you why here in just a moment. 5 straight, 27-25. Peru State has defeated Graceland last week, 37-31. And again, I want to go back and say, if Graceland is playing with everyone, that's going to be a tough win for Peru State. But they did it. And you watch this, Peru State lost 4, won 3. They have Grandview next week. So to get back things going again, get it up to 4 straight wins, they're going to have to do it on the road at William Penn. William Penn defeated Clark last week, 41-20. Peru State, led by Jordan Kemp, 168.7 all-purpose yards. He's second in the NAIA in that category. Runs the ball well, receives well, punt returns, kickoff returns. He's done it all. Jordan Kemp. We're picking Peru State. After having lost 4 straight games, we're going to go with Peru State on the road to win its 4th consecutive game, heading to play Grandview next week, where it's going to be a challenge. And you know what, Jake? It's fitting because the next game on the schedule is the one I know you've been waiting for me to talk about. It's an impact game. And Jake, by the way, you're our first ever super sticker, our first ever super anything on the channel. So I appreciate that. Super sticker for Jake. Man, I'm not even sure how to put all those things on there. How about that? Jake, thanks for being a part of the broadcast tonight. Your timing is absolutely perfect because we were heading right into Friends on this one. So shout out to Jake. And Friends and the Fighting Jake Redcorns, well, they're on the road. They're on the road in this one, and let's talk about that for a little bit. Impact game. This one is as big as any of them that are out there. These are 2 teams that both could be in the playoffs this year, fighting for the lead in the Kessinger division, which this season, and it may not be that way every year, but this season leaps ahead of the Bissell division in the KCAC. And so, Friends at 6-1 gave Southwestern its first loss of the season last week. They're going on the road to take on Evangel, try to give the Valor their first loss of the season. And by the way, shout out to Isaac, who's been watching this one as well. Isaac, he's gonna represent the Valor, and he's not alone, by the way. We have some other folks coming in to represent the Valor in this one. Han Solo 93. Yeah, go Valor in this one. So let's talk about both these teams. The Valor is 7-0. Evangel's 2-1 all time in this series. Won the last time these two teams met. By the way, that was 11 years ago. 27-14 all time, or 27-14 in 2012. Friends defeated Southwestern last week, 35-20. Evangel defeated Bethany last week, 34-11. Friends on the year, offense, 420.6 rushing yards a game. Let me say that again because I want to make sure that sets in. 420.6 rushing yards of offense per game. That's tops in the NAIA. On the other hand, consider what Evangel does. They hold opponents to just 237 yards of offense, total offense per game. 6th in the NAIA. One of those two things has to give. How about Evangel on offense? 445 yards of total offense, 12th in the NAIA. Friends on defense, giving up a little bit more than what the Valor is, 297.7 yards per game, 27th on defense in the NAIA. So the two teams really, it could go back and forth. This is another one of those games that I'm looking at and saying it's going to be low 20s, high 30s for both teams. And if you see just what they've done, I think either or both of these teams could get into the 30s. Vegas has not put a line on this game. I'm not going to put a line on this game except to say that it will be close. Friends led by Cavante Baker, 113 rushing yards per game. Another quarterback that's in the top 10 in the NAIA, 7th in the NAIA in rushing yards per game. 16 rushing touchdowns. That's tops in the country in the NAIA. He's had 8 fumbles, though, and lost 6 of those fumbles as well. So there's your downside for Baker right there, is that he's coughed up the ball more than anyone has in the NAIA, both fumbles and lost fumbles. Can the Evangel defense take care of this? We're going to give the edge just slightly to the Falcons on the road, coming in, playing as well as any team in the country is playing. And I say that knowing that Evangel's 7-0. The Valor also playing as well as any team in the country is playing right now. This one, two teams, low or high 20s, low 30s, expected to be an exciting game. And Jake, I think we're going to have a meetup over there too. Jake, heading out to NAIA. Are you heading out to NAIA, by the way? I'm just asking on that. I had the chance. I was in Springfield for you Valor fans. We really tried to do a Midwest Sports Saturday from NAIA, and we're going to do one during the basketball season. If we're not able to get back out there to do one during football season, we will have a show from Springfield during basketball season. So we'll do that. Really neat court, by the way. Really, really neat court. It's a fantastic facility. And I know the Valor Dome, is it at the Valor Dome? What other building there? The Valor Dome. Okay. What is that? They're building a new football facility out there. Anyway, great facility there in Evangel. We tried to do a show from NAIA. We weren't able to do it because weather did not cooperate, and they moved up the kickoff for that game. So sorry about that one. Anyway, we got lost in all of that. I have Go Friends, Go Valor both. The Valor Center. Okay, the Valor Center. Thank you very much. See, I've been there. Did a video from the soccer field this summer, and we're going to go out there and we're going to do a live Midwest Sports Saturday. So maybe Isaac, I get a chance to meet you or Han Solo or whoever else is up out there. So anyway, bottom line on this one, for whatever you need to know, we're going to take Friends in a very, very small margin. The score, if it tops 60 combined, I'd be surprised. So we're taking Friends in this one. That was fun. I enjoyed that one. All right. Let's please don't leave. Stick around. We have a few more. By the way, we're here on Midwest Sports Net, and if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do. We talk about small college sports and more throughout the Midwest and beyond. And we do, like Jake said, we highlight everything that's great about football and small college. But Jake, we're not just about football only. We will be talking volleyball in the NAIA here in a couple of weeks, because volleyball playoffs are on the way as well, and there's some very good volleyball in the NAIA. We also talk a lot of D2 sports too, but not tonight. Not tonight. Dakota State 0-7 and Valley City State 4-2. These two programs have met 34 times previous. This is number 35. Valley City State won earlier this year. This is one of those conference matchups, and the North Star does this, where you're going to see an opponent twice in a season. Dakota State lost to Waldorf last week, 34-14. Valley City State defeated Waldorf a couple of weeks ago, 28-24. And the Vikings were taking Valley City State at home. Let's go to another impact game. Another impact game. How about this one? And a lot on the line here in the Sun Conference for this one. Ave Maria, the Gyrenes are quietly 4-2. And I say quietly because I'm not seeing a lot of national attention for Ave Maria. They are led, the Gyrenes are, by Brian Steinke, who is putting up 181 rushing yards per game. Tops in the NAIA, has only 8 rushing touchdowns. He's had 136 carries in just 5 games. Now, how big is that? I mean, he's been the offense. How big is that? Well, I'll tell you how big it is. His 136 carries in 5 games is 6th in the NAI. The other 5 that are above him who have carried the ball more have all done it in 7 games total. He's done it in just 5. So the Ave Maria offense is all on Brian Steinke's shoulders. St. Thomas on defense, probably going to recognize that. The Bobcats 4-3 on the year. Big win against Texas Wesleyan earlier. Big win against Bethel. They're 4-3. Both these teams are 2-1 in Sun Conference play. The loser of this one pretty much out of the running for a Sun Conference automatic bid. Still could be around for a playoff bid. St. Thomas likely not. This is still this is a must-win game. And they've been must-win games for St. Thomas pretty much from about week 4. So the Bobcats need this win. Ave Maria, with a win here, puts itself in a very, very good position, taking on a Kaiser team a little bit later on. St. Thomas 3-1 all-time in the series, won 55-33 last year. By the way, I mentioned Brian Steinke. You can't talk about St. Thomas without talking about the Bobcats running game as well. Rontavious Farmer, 115.1 rushing yards per game, 6th in the NAI, has 3 more rushing touchdowns than Steinke does, has 11 of those on the season, 147 carries on the year. So between these two running backs, they've combined to carry the ball 283 times this season. A lot of running game. This game could be about this long if they can both just run the ball like that, and the time is just ticking away. So this game could be very, very close, or very, very short. I think it's going to be close. I think Ave Maria keeps it very, very close. And St. Thomas comes away with a win. So the Bobcats go and keep their season alive with another must-win game. Rounding things down here, we're winding up our show tonight. I want to say thanks to everybody for watching. Really appreciate that, and appreciate everyone for your comments and for letting me know from where you're watching tonight. Some of y'all are Valor fans. Are you watching from Springfield? Well, let me know. Again, shout out to Jake. Appreciate him for getting involved and breaking the glass to allow people to get involved on the Super. So thank you for that. St. Mary 2-5. We got that one up there. 2-5. Kansas Wesleyan 5-2. Coyotes 18-4 all time in this series. They've won 5 straight, including a 90-0 victory in 2019. Won 39-13 last year. Kansas Wesleyan not afraid to put points on the board against the Spires. St. Mary lost last week to the Braves 28-17. Kansas Wesleyan defeated Avila 34-16 last week. We're going with the Coyotes. Definitely going with the Coyotes in Salina. Pikeville 4-3. Man, we've been talking about the Bears in the top 5 performances lately and what Lee Kirkland does. Bluefield 3-3. Both these teams still with an outside chance in the Appalachian. Pikeville's 8-1 all time in the series, but Bluefield won the most recent contest. Stopped the 8-game slide last year with a 50-26 win. And Pikeville defeated Kentucky Christian, who hasn't, 49-0. Bluefield lost a point last week, 33-31. These are two fantastic quarterbacks. And again, another game with headliner quarterbacks. Let's talk about these two really quickly. We mentioned Lee Kirkland, and he has been in our top 5 performances 2 of the last 3 times. I think we almost had him in last week too. 232 yards passing per game, 19th in the NAIA, but he has 15 passing touchdowns. He was responsible for 7 touchdowns in a game a couple weeks back. In the last 4 games alone, he's been responsible for those 15 touchdowns. For whatever reason, Kirkland didn't have a passing touchdown in the first 3 games of the season for Pikeville. In the 4 games since, or the first 2 games, 4 games since, he's had 15. He also has 3 rushing touchdowns, and he's been picked off only 3 times. Solid quarterback in Kirkland. You cannot neglect what Nathan Hurstich has done, at least from a stats perspective. 318 passing yards per game. He leads the NAIA. Again, that's also without Cade Ross, and his numbers, we'll see if he comes back. 17 passing touchdowns for Hurstich. We are going to go ahead and go with the team that's trending, and the team that's been trending is Pikeville. 4-3, we're taking Pikeville on the road. Madonna is 0-7 on the year. Taylor's 1-6. Taylor close last week. Very, very close loss last week. And they're at home this week. Trojans lost Siena Heights by 3. Madonna lost to Indiana Wesleyan by only 26. And I mean that, by only 26, because the Wildcats probably could have put more on there. Madonna has lost 26 consecutive games, by the way, too. There's that number. We're going to say it's probably going to be 27. Taylor wins at home. All right. 3 more games. 2 more impact games for sure. And one of these we can call an impact game, even though I think it's going to mean a lot more to one than the other. But let's go ahead and wrap up the show. Our last 3. Southeastern, 4-2. Kaiser, 4-2. Southeastern in Sun Conference play, 3-0. Kaiser in Sun Conference play, 3-0. Southeastern last week defeated Thomas, 34-20. The Fire have won 3 consecutive games. Kaiser last week defeated Warner, 69-6. The Seahawks have won 3 consecutive games. It's homecoming at Kaiser. It's going to be a whiteout at Kaiser. This is a huge game, and a couple of stars in this one. Well, let's talk about the ground game. Jaden Meisinger, 76.7 rushing yards per game, 10 rushing touchdowns. For Southeastern, Josiah Neos, 68.3 rushing yards per game, 5 rushing touchdowns, but all of them have come in the last 3 games. Southeastern is a top 10 defense, allowing only 251 yards per game of total offense. Kaiser, in a low-scoring game, takes this one, and this one's just like the one we said in the Frontier. If the over-under were placed at 44.5 points, and you know what? This is our show. We can do this. We're placing the over-under at 44.5 points for both the College of Idaho game, College of Idaho and Carroll game, and this game between Southeastern and Kaiser. We're putting the over-under at 44 points or 44.5 points and saying take the under in this one. Could be a short game. Could be one where the clock ticks away. And we're going to say Kaiser in a low-scoring game. So there you go. All right. Next up, heading out to the Frontier one more time. Montana Western on the road at Arizona Christian. The Bulldogs have really come along of late, and I've had them. I have a vote in the NAIF ball poll. I've had Montana Western up there, and we've been keeping Montana Western up there. And I think the Bulldogs should be in that top 25 ranked high. They're 5-1, defeated Rocky Mountain, held on to defeat Rocky Mountain last week, 27-20. Arizona Christian is 2-5. Did not see that coming. Really thought the Firestorm would come in with a little more fire into the Frontier. And I don't know if it's something about being up north, colder weather. The fire's been put out. Arizona Christian 2-5. First ever meeting between the two. Arizona Christian lost 49-7 to Southern Oregon. Firestorm have lost 4 straight games. For Arizona Christian, Tyler Duncan. Both of these teams, by the way, have a quarterback that's responsible for 14 touchdowns. Tyler Duncan, 178 yards passing per game, 7 passing touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns. He's been picked off 5 times, though. Michael Palandri, and we made it this far without the cough drop. So here we go. We're almost done. Michael Palandri for Montana Western, 250 yards passing per game, It's 12th in the NAIA. He has 14 touchdowns as well, 14 passing touchdowns, and he's been picked off only 2 times. We're taking Montana Western on the road. The Firestorm slump continues at home against a very strong Montana Western team. And finally, last game on the docket, Louisiana Christian and OUAZ. Big game, impact game. OUAZ has a loss already, and that was to Texas Wesleyan, so it's a Sooner Athletic Conference loss. The Spirit can't afford to have another loss in conference play. Louisiana Christian, and if you've been watching this channel for very long at all, you know I've been on the Wildcats bandwagon all season. Not going to get off that bandwagon right now. I think this is one of those games that could set up a game in the season finale. The two teams are 1-1 all time. OUAZ won 45-13 last year, and Louisiana Christian tripped up OUAZ 49-19. You say tripped up, that's a 30-point win. Well, they tripped them up because it was the second loss of the season. OUAZ went ahead and won the Sooner Athletic Conference, but those 2 losses changed the trajectory for the Spirit getting into the playoffs. They wound up going to Morningside, and they got beat by Morningside. And so that Louisiana Christian loss was huge for OUAZ. I think it surprised a lot of people. I remember it at the time. It surprised me as well. Well, Louisiana Christian defeated Texas College last week 52-7. OUAZ obliterated Arkansas Baptist 83-0. Louisiana Christian, led by Sal Palermo III, 201.6 passing yards per game, 34th in the NAIA. However, he has 14 passing touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. He also has 6 rushing touchdowns. Palermo responsible for 20 touchdowns so far on the season. How about OUAZ's Luke Giron? He's had a pretty good season as well. 267.7 passing yards, 9th in the NAIA. He has 16 passing touchdowns, 5 picks, and 6 rushing touchdowns as well. 2 dual threat quarterbacks. Giron, 22 touchdowns that he's been responsible for on the year. He's also 68.9% passing through the air. Giron's done a great job. Louisiana Christian, the defense, is giving up just 13.1 points per game, giving up just 208 yards of total offense per game. That's second in the NAIA behind only Grandview. Louisiana Christian on the road goes 2 time zones to the west, and the defense will hold on a long road trip, and we're picking the Wildcats to get the win and set up a big-time season finale against Texas Wesleyan, pretty much for the Sooner Athletic Conference title. So there we go. Those are our picks. That's taken us through 43 games in the NAIA. I've had a lot of fun. I hope you've had a lot of fun tonight. Again, Isaac, thanks for watching. Thanks for helping out. The Valor Center, we're going to be a part of seeing that. Hopefully we can be there even when it opens up. Aaron, thank you for watching tonight. Jake, Han Solo, Dale, as well as, let me see who else has been on here tonight. Dave watching as well tonight. And if you're watching this, by the way, on the replay, I want to give a shout out to you too, because if you made it to this point in the program, we're a little more than an hour into our preview tonight. Thanks for watching. You're an absolute trooper for being a part of that. Jake, thanks for being an official first part of our channel. It means a lot to me. And don't be afraid to reach out and let us know what's going on. And if there's something cool happening, give us a shout out. I also put in this week's description here on the YouTube channel, we have a Discord channel, and if you'd like to talk some football on the Discord channel, we have that out there as well. It's out there, so click on that, and the invite is there. So I appreciate everyone being a part of the channel here. Again, if you haven't yet subscribed, please do, Midwest Sports Net, and please continue to watch the videos here because we have a lot of fun doing them. To my knowledge, now, unless something comes up, I don't know that we have another interview between now and Sunday night's live stream. We may have one more interview, and I think we may have, well, we'll see. We'll see if there's anything else between now and then coming up. I know we have a couple on the way next week as well. Top 5 performances. Will one of your teams have someone or someones with a top 5 performance? Be watching Sunday night. Shout out again to everybody. Thanks for being a part of the broadcast tonight. I made it to just 2 games left without needing the cough drop tonight. I'm going to call that a win. Lots of impact games. We're going to have fun on Sunday because it looks like there's going to be a lot of cool stuff to talk about. Thanks again for watching. Always appreciate that. just a shout out to all of you all tonight. God bless you guys. Have a safe weekend. Enjoy watching football, and I hope that your team wins. Won't happen for everybody, but I hope your team wins.